All right, folks, let's get right to it. I am looking at an article that is remarkably significant. It's related to the European Union and what's going on over there. And of course, anytime I see news from the European Union, I'm always focused in the same way I would focus if we saw news in Jerusalem. Now, this is interesting. It says this in quotes. This is the title of the article in Zero Hedge. It says, all rules of the game, institutional architecture, and physical supply chains will now have to change. Duh, you think? All right, let me read this to you. It is really interesting. I'll read the first paragraph here, and there is some significant biblical precedent here that we've got to discuss. We cannot let it be absent from our thinking. So it says this. It says, European Union wholesale electricity prices have collapsed a staggering 50% in a week. But that only takes them from nobody can pay to very few can afford to pay territory. Now, Gazprom has turned off EU. By the way, Gazprom is pretty much Russia, has turned off EU gas flow through the Nord Stream 1. Again, by the way, the Nord Stream 1 is the pipeline that got pretty much given to by the current president of the United States. That's a total mess, but that's a whole other story. Goes on to say Europe claims it has stored 80% of the gas it needs for winter, cheering markets. Yet analysts point out Germany needs much more than it stores each year, and with no flow, huge problems or very high LNG import prices. This is very interesting. It says the colder this winter gets, the more so. Now, German industry is already responding by closing down. If it sees there is no power resolution possible for 2023, 2024, or 2025 or longer, where might all that mighty production muscle be transplanted to? Well, here it is. Look what he says. Oil prices closed down another 2.3% yesterday, with Brent at $96.50, referring to crude. But there is a broadening public admittance from key players that financial markets are not reflecting the physical reality, and as with many other commodities, are becoming less liquid and more volatile. Now, I will leave the discussion regarding the economics alone here, simply to say that Europe is on the verge of collapsing. That's the reality of it. The United States is in the same category, as are many of these powerhouses, or former powerhouses, as we would say, and it is getting set up for the scenarios that we read about in the last days. Folks, what we read about in Ezekiel 38 and 39 is very close to happening. We're around the corner from that. I am not a date setter, and nor will I ever, under any circumstances, set a date, but it looks like we're getting closer and closer to it. Europe is becoming more and more inconsequential, and as a method to resolve that broadening inconsequentiality, I am certain that they are going to bring themselves in as a union to a consolidated amount of states, and then they will capitulate to one single final Antichrist. Folks, all the news that we are reading about seems to be pointing us into that direction, and make no mistake about it, the Lord is coming soon. Now, I want to just say this because I think it's really important. I want us to understand how critical it is that in this time we continue to stand for righteousness. Because as we see the day approaching, we are called by God to take a stand. And ladies and gentlemen, the day is approaching. So it's time to stand for righteousness, understanding that everything is on the line and God has called us to put our hands to the plow and not look back. All right, guys, God bless you. Keep your eyes on Him.